She heard the folder hit the floor. It wasn't loud, just a soft thud against polished wood. But in a house like this, even small sounds could mean trouble. The maid froze beside the desk. For a second, she considered leaving it, pretending she hadn't touched anything. The heir hated people touching his things. But if he came back and saw the mess, she would be blamed. Slowly, carefully, she knelt. The black folder had burst open when it fell. Photos were scattered across the floor. She began gathering them quickly. One face, another, men, women, all black. Each photo had handwritten notes beneath it. Workplace, home address, schedule. She frowned. What is this? She turned over another photo. A young man standing outside a mechanic shop. The maid's breath stopped. Her hands started shaking. The photo slipped from her fingers and fell back to the floor. Because the man in the photo was her son, Marcus. Under his picture, written in thick red ink, "Pick up Friday night." Her heart slammed violently against her ribs. No. She scrambled to pick up the photo again. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone who looked like him. But it wasn't. She knew that smile, that crooked scar above his eyebrow from when he fell off a bike as a kid. Her son, her baby, inside a folder full of kidnapping targets. And this folder belonged to the most dangerous man in the house, the Mafia Heir. Her breathing grew faster. Her eyes scanned the other photos again. More names, more people, all marked with dates. Her chest tightened as a terrifying realization formed. This wasn't random. This was a list, a hunting list, and her son was on it. Footsteps echoed faintly down the hallway. The maid jolted upright. Someone was coming. Panicked, she stuffed the photos back into the folder as quickly as possible, trying to remember how they had been arranged. Her fingers trembled so badly she almost dropped the folder again. Finally, she placed it back on the desk, exactly where it had been. Just as the footsteps stopped outside the door, the handle turned slightly. She grabbed her cleaning cloth and pretended to dust the bookshelf. The door opened, but it wasn't the heir. It was his personal assistant. The tall Korean man stood in the doorway, watching her silently. His name was Min-jae. He was known throughout the mansion for being quiet, precise, and always close to the heir. If anyone knew what was inside that folder, it would be him. The maid kept her eyes down, pretending not to notice his gaze. "Did you finish cleaning?" he asked calmly. "Yes, sir," she replied quickly. Her voice sounded strange, even to her own ears. Min-jae stepped inside. His eyes moved slowly around the room. Desk, chair, bookshelf, then the folder. For a moment, the maid thought she saw something change in his expression. Not anger, not suspicion, something else. He turned back to her. "You can go," he said. Relief washed over her so strongly her knees almost buckled. "Thank you, sir." She grabbed her cart and hurried out of the room, but she could feel his eyes on her back as she left. The moment she turned the corner of the hallway, her breathing collapsed into shallow gasps. Her son was in danger, real danger, and the people planning it lived in the same house where she worked. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and called Marcus. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Finally his voice answered. "Hey, Ma." Tears instantly filled her eyes. "Marcus, where are you?" "At work." "Why?" "You need to be careful. Do you understand me?" He laughed softly. "Ma, what's going on?" "Just promise me you'll be careful." There was a pause. "I'm always careful." "No," she insisted, voice trembling. "You don't understand." "What's wrong?" She opened her mouth. But what could she say? That the son of a mafia boss had her photo in a kidnapping folder? He wouldn't believe it. Or worse, he would panic. Just stay with people tonight, she said. Okay, Marcus replied slowly. You're scaring me. I'm sorry, she whispered. They hung up, but fear didn't leave her chest, because the note had said Friday night. And Friday night was tomorrow. That evening, the mansion felt different. Every guard suddenly looked suspicious. Every closed door felt like it hid something terrible. The maid worked silently through the halls, trying to keep her mind calm. But one thought repeated over and over. How many people were already taken? How many families had lost someone because of that folder? She pushed her cart down the hallway near the heir's office. Suddenly, a voice spoke behind her. You open the folder. Her heart nearly stopped. She turned slowly. Min Jae stood behind her. His expression was unreadable. I don't know what you mean, she stammered. You shouldn't lie, he said quietly. Her throat tightened. I was cleaning. The folder fell. And you looked inside. She said nothing. His eyes softened slightly. Is one of them your family? Her control finally broke. My son, she whispered. Min Jae looked down briefly, then back at her. What is his name? Marcus. He nodded slowly. I thought so. Her head snapped up. You knew. I recognized his photo. Her heart pounded. Then you know what they're planning. Yes. Her voice rose. Then why aren't you stopping it? He glanced down the empty hallway before speaking again. Because stopping it carelessly will get us both killed. The maid stared at him. You said us. For the first time, something like determination appeared in his eyes. Your son isn't the only target, he said. He's running a kidnapping operation. Her stomach twisted. And you work for him. I work near him, Min Jae corrected calmly. Not for what he's doing. Her mind raced. You knew about the folder. Yes. Then why didn't you go to the police? His expression darkened slightly. You think the police will walk into a mafia mansion and arrest the boss's son? She had no answer. The heir has powerful protection, he continued, and his father doesn't know. The maid blinked. The mafia boss doesn't know his own son is kidnapping people. No. Silence hung between them. Then Min Jae leaned closer. If we expose him properly, the boss will destroy the operation himself. And if we fail, she whispered, then the heir will make sure no one ever finds your son. Her chest tightened painfully. What do we do? Min Jae looked down the hallway again, then spoke quietly. We gather proof. How? I've been trying for months. Months, she repeated. Yes. I suspected something when I saw strange financial transfers. Then I found the folder. Why didn't you report it then? Because suspicion isn't enough, he said. The boss would need undeniable evidence. And you don't have it. Not yet. Her hands clenched. My son doesn't have months. Min Jae's voice softened slightly. I know. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said something unexpected. I can't promise we'll stop everything. Her heart dropped. But I can promise we'll try to stop tomorrow's pickup. Hope flickered faintly. How? We find where the victims are taken first. And you think that's possible? He nodded. I've been watching their movements. Her eyes widened. You've been spying on him. Carefully. The maid felt a strange mix of fear and relief. So what do you need from me? Min Jae studied her for a moment. Access. To what? You clean the rooms everyone else ignores. She slowly realized what he meant. You want me to look for more evidence? Yes. And if someone catches me? His gaze held steady. Then neither of us will be alive long enough to worry about it. Her stomach twisted again. But then she remembered the red circle around her son's face. I'll do it. Min Jae nodded once. Good. Then he handed her a small phone. This one is encrypted. She took it. If you find anything suspicious, send a picture. Okay. He paused before leaving. One more thing. What? Act normal, he said. Fear attracts attention. Then he walked away, leaving her standing alone in the hallway, holding a phone and a secret that could destroy the most powerful family in the city. If you're enjoying this story so far, take a quick second to like the video so more people can discover it. And trust me, things are about to get a lot more dangerous. Because the maid had just stepped into a war she didn't fully understand. And the enemy lived in the same house. The next morning came too quickly. The maid barely slept. Every hour she checked her phone to make sure Marcus was safe. But the kidnapping date still hung over her mind like a ticking clock. Friday night. Tonight. She pushed her cart through the mansion halls, forcing herself to look calm. Inside, her nerves were screaming. Min Jae's words echoed in her head. Find evidence. Act normal. Don't get caught. Her first opportunity came sooner than expected. One of the security guards called her over. Hey, clean the storage room near the back office. Her heart skipped. That area was close to the heir's private meeting rooms. Yes, sir. She pushed her cart there slowly. The hallway was empty. When she entered the storage room, she began cleaning shelves. But her eyes kept drifting to the door across the hall. The heir's meeting room. Suddenly, the door opened. The heir walked out laughing, with two men in suits. She quickly lowered her head. Shipment tonight. One man was saying, Everything prepared? The heir asked. Yes. The maid's pulse quickened. Shipment. Tonight. They walked down the hall and disappeared. The maid immediately pulled out the encrypted phone and typed a message. They mentioned shipment tonight. A reply came almost instantly. I know. Min Jae, keep listening if you can. Her heart pounded, but she stayed in the hallway, pretending to mop the floor. Minutes later, the meeting room door opened again. One of the suited men stepped out to take a call. His voice was low, but she could still hear pieces. Warehouse ready, trucks arrive after midnight. Her breath caught. Warehouse. That must be where the victims were taken. She quickly snapped a photo of the man's paperwork through the slightly open door, then sent it to Min Jae. His response came seconds later. Good work. But his next message made her stomach drop. The warehouse address is on that document. And it's the same place Marcus works. Her entire world seemed to stop. Her son wasn't just a target. He was already at the location where kidnappings would happen. She stared at the phone. Then they'll take him tonight, she typed. Min Jae's reply appeared slowly. Yes. Her hands began shaking again. What do we do? Several seconds passed before his next message. Then it appeared. We stop them tonight. The maid looked up from the phone. For the first time since finding the folder, she felt something stronger than fear. Determination. Because if she didn't act now, her son might disappear forever. And the heir would continue hunting innocent people like animals. But what neither of them realized yet was that someone else in the mansion had already started watching them. And the heir was much more suspicious than they thought. The real confrontation was coming. And when it arrived, someone in that mansion would lose everything. Marcus didn't notice the black van the first time it drove past the garage. He was busy wiping grease from his hands and arguing with a co-worker about a stubborn engine that refused to start. The garage lights flickered slightly as evening crept in. Outside, the street was quieter than usual. Inside the mansion, the maid stood in a narrow service hallway, staring at the encrypted phone in her hand. One message glowed on the screen. The trucks arrive at midnight. Another message followed seconds later. We have 4 hours. Min Jae. Her heart pounded. For hours until the heir's men came for her son. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Marcus is already there. I know, Min-jae replied. How do we stop them? The typing dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally his message came. We expose him tonight. Her chest tightened. You said we needed more proof. We have enough, he wrote. What about the mafia boss? I'll bring him the evidence. And my son? Another pause. I'll make sure the pickup never happens. She stared at the message. How? But there was no reply. A door slammed somewhere down the hall. The maid quickly shoved the phone into her apron. Moments later the heir walked past her. His expression was relaxed, almost cheerful, like a man with no worries in the world. He barely glanced at her. But as he passed, he said something to the guard beside him. Make sure the trucks leave quietly tonight. The maid's stomach twisted. It was real. All of it. The heir continued walking, completely unaware that the woman dusting the hallway walls knew his secret. Or maybe he suspected something already, because, as he turned the corner, he stopped, then slowly looked back down the hallway. The maid lowered her head instantly, pretending to scrub the wall. After a moment, his footsteps continued, but the look he gave her lingered in her mind. Something about it felt wrong, like he was starting to notice the pieces moving around him. Across the mansion, Min-jae stepped quietly into the boss's private office. The room was empty. He locked the door behind him. His hands moved quickly as he placed several documents on the desk. Photos from the folder. Financial transfers. Warehouse addresses. He stared at the evidence. Months of suspicion. Weeks of silent investigation. And now the truth was sitting in front of him. But he couldn't take it to the boss yet. Not until the final piece appeared. Proof of the kidnapping itself. Proof that would make denial impossible. He checked the time. 10:17 p.m. 2 hours before the trucks arrived. His phone buzzed. A message from the maid. Marcus just called. He's still at work. Min-jae typed quickly. Tell him to leave early. I tried. And he says he needs the money. Min-jae closed his eyes briefly. Of course. People who needed money worked late. And criminals knew that. Tell him again. I did. And he laughed. Min-jae sighed softly. He typed again. Then we'll have to move faster. Back at the garage, Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead and checked his phone. Another missed call from his mother. He smiled slightly. She worries too much, he muttered. His coworker glanced at him. Your mom again? Yeah. She still thinks you're 12. Marcus laughed. Something like that. He started closing the hood of the car. But outside the garage, the black van had returned. And this time, it stopped. Inside the mansion, the maid's phone buzzed again. A message from Min-jae. The heir just left the house. Her pulse quickened. That means tonight's operation started. She typed back quickly. Then we need to warn Marcus. I'm already on my way. You're leaving the mansion? Yes. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Be careful. Several seconds passed. Then his reply appeared. Don't worry about me. But she did worry, because if Min-jae was caught interfering with the heir's operation, he wouldn't survive the night. Minutes passed. Then her phone buzzed again. A new message. Something's wrong. Her heart jumped. What? The heir didn't go to the warehouse. Where did he go? Another pause. Then the answer came. He's still inside the mansion. Her blood ran cold. What? I just saw him on the security camera. The maid slowly turned her head down the hallway. Suddenly, every shadow looked threatening. Why would he stay? I don't know. But Min-jae knew something was wrong. Very wrong. Because the heir never stayed behind during operations. He always left. Always created distance between himself and the crime. Unless he suspected someone inside the house. The maid's phone buzzed again. A new message. Don't move. Her breathing stopped. What do you mean? Another message appeared. The heir is walking toward the service wing. That was where she was. Her chest tightened. Why? Min Jae's next message made her heart slam. I think he's looking for you. Her hands went cold. But how? Another message cut her off. Just act normal. Footsteps echoed from the far end of the hallway. Slow, confident. The maid grabbed her cleaning cloth and began wiping the wall again. Her heart was pounding so loudly she was sure it could be heard. The footsteps grew closer, then stopped behind her. Still working this late? The heir's voice. She turned slowly. Yes, sir. His eyes studied her face carefully. You seem nervous. No, sir. He smiled slightly. That's strange. Her throat tightened. Why? Because most people become nervous when they discover something they shouldn't. Her stomach dropped. He stepped closer. So tell me, he said softly, what did you see in my room yesterday? Across the city, Min Jae slammed his car door and ran toward the garage. The black van was parked outside. His pulse spiked. Too late. He rushed inside. Marcus stood near the counter arguing with one of the men from the van. I told you we're closed. The man smiled calmly. That's okay. He nodded toward two other men behind him. They're just here to pick something up. Marcus frowned. What? The men suddenly grabbed his arms. What the HEY? Min Jae burst through the door. Stop. Everyone turned. For a moment, the entire room froze. Then one of the kidnappers recognized him. The assistant. Another man spoke into a radio. He's here. Min Jae's heart dropped. The heir knew. He had known all along. Inside the mansion, the maid's phone buzzed in her apron. The heir's eyes immediately dropped to it. What's that? He asked quietly. Her heart nearly stopped. Just my phone. Show me. She hesitated. His smile disappeared. I said, show me. Slowly, she pulled out the encrypted phone. His eyes narrowed instantly. That's not yours. Silence filled the hallway. Then he looked back at her. Who gave you this? She said nothing. His voice hardened. Was it my assistant? Her silence was answer enough. The heir chuckled softly. I wondered when he would betray me. The maid's heart raced. You knew. Of course. He stepped closer. I've been watching both of you. Cold fear spread through her chest. You see, he continued calmly, trust is very expensive in my world. Then he leaned closer. So tell me, where is he right now? Across the city, Marcus struggled violently as the kidnappers forced him toward the van. Let me go. One of the men punched him in the stomach. He doubled over in pain. Min Jae stepped forward slowly. Take me instead. The men laughed. That's not how this works. One of them raised a gun. You should have stayed loyal. Min Jae's eyes moved quickly around the garage. 3 kidnappers. 1 gun. Marcus on his knees. His voice stayed calm. If you take him, he said, the boss will find out. The man holding the gun smiled. He already knows. Min Jae felt his stomach drop. Then the man added something worse. And he approved it. Back in the mansion hallway, the maid stared at the heir. You're lying, she whispered. He tilted his head. Am I? Her mind raced. Min Jae had said the boss didn't know. But what if that was wrong? What if the entire family was involved? The heir watched her expression carefully, then smiled. You look disappointed. Her chest tightened. You're monsters. He laughed quietly. This world is built by monsters. Then his eyes turned cold. But you and my assistant made a very big mistake. What mistake? Thinking you were the only ones playing a game. He reached into his pocket. Her breath caught. A phone. He held it up. On the screen was a live video feed. The garage. Marcus on his knees. The kidnappers surrounding him. Her legs nearly gave out. No. The heir watched her reaction with amusement. Touching, isn't it? Tears streamed down her face. Please. Please what? Let him go. He shook his head slowly. That depends. On what? His smile returned. On whether my assistant survives the next 5 minutes. Because on the video feed, one of the kidnappers had just pointed a gun directly at Min-jae's head. And the maid realized something horrifying. This wasn't just a kidnapping operation. This was a test. The heir had set a trap for both of them. And now someone was going to die. If you've made it this far in the story, you already know things just escalated in a massive way. Before the final reveal, take a second to like the video, subscribe, and comment what you think is about to happen next. Because the next moments will decide who survives and who loses everything. The heir's finger hovered over the phone screen as the live video continued playing. Marcus gasping for breath. Min-jae standing calmly. The gun aimed at his head. Let's see how loyal he really is, the heir said quietly. But he didn't realize something. Min-jae had already planned for this possibility. Because in the garage, as the kidnapper raised the gun, police sirens suddenly exploded outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. The kidnappers froze. What the? The garage doors burst open. Armed officers rushed inside shouting commands. Drop your weapons. Chaos erupted instantly. The kidnappers tried to run. Marcus scrambled away. Min-jae stepped back calmly as officers tackled the men to the ground. Back in the mansion, hallway, the heir's smile disappeared. The maid stared at the phone screen. Police surrounded the kidnappers. Marcus was safe. Her knees nearly gave out from relief. The heir slowly lowered the phone. How? He whispered. Then a new voice spoke from behind him. I called them. Both of them turned. The mafia boss stood at the end of the hallway. His expression was ice cold, and in his hands was the black folder. The hallway went silent. The heir slowly turned toward the voice behind him. His father stood there, holding the black folder. The mafia boss had always carried an intimidating presence, but tonight something about him felt different. Colder, more dangerous. His eyes moved from the heir to the maid, and then back to the heir again. The maid's chest was still rising and falling rapidly from panic, but now a strange wave of relief mixed with it. The boss knew. Everything. The heir recovered first. For a brief second, shock flickered across his face. Then he laughed. A slow, mocking laugh. So that's how you found out. The boss didn't respond. He opened the folder calmly. One by one he flipped through the photos. Each turn of the page felt like a hammer hitting the floor. The maid held her breath. The heir leaned against the wall, casually. You're going to be disappointed, he said. I was hoping to surprise you with the profits. The boss stopped turning pages. Slowly, he looked up. Profits. The heir shrugged. Business. The maid stared at him in disbelief. Those are people, she shouted. The heir looked at her like she was an insect. People are always business. The boss's jaw tightened slightly. You kidnapped them, he said quietly. I acquired them. The heir corrected. The boss closed the folder. And the money? The heir smirked. Offshore accounts. Very successful ones. The hallway felt heavier with every second. Then the boss asked something unexpected. Did you take the boy? The maid's heart stopped again. The heir chuckled. I was about to. The boss looked down at the photo of Marcus again. Why him? The heir shrugged. Easy target. Late shifts. Quiet neighborhood. The maid's tears returned instantly. You monster. The heir rolled his eyes. Oh please. You work in a mafia house, and suddenly morality matters. The boss slowly stepped forward. The heir watched him carefully. You look angry, the heir said. I am. But not surprised. The boss stopped walking. What do you mean? The heir's smile widened. I mean you raised me. The words hung in the air. The maid felt her stomach twist. For the first time, uncertainty crossed the boss's face. The heir continued. You built this world. You taught me power. That's not power, the boss said. It's profit. It's cruelty. The heir laughed again. Don't pretend you care about cruelty now. The maid watched the two men carefully. Father and son. Both powerful. Both dangerous. But something was different. The boss wasn't defending himself. Instead he said quietly, I built an empire. The heir nodded. Exactly. But there are rules. The heir's expression hardened slightly. You broke them, the boss said. Silence followed. The maid frowned. Rules? The heir tilted his head. You're upset because I didn't share the money? No. Then why? The boss lifted the photo of Marcus. Because you hunted civilians. The heir's patience finally snapped. Oh, come on. His voice rose. You expect me to believe that bothers you? The boss stepped closer. It does. The heir stared at him for several seconds. Then something strange happened. He started laughing again. Louder this time. You really don't know, do you? The boss's eyes narrowed. Know what? The heir leaned closer. They were already watching you. The maid felt the air leave her lungs. What? The boss said slowly. The police, the heir continued. They've been investigating the family for months. The boss's face went still. You think you're angry now? The heir said. Wait until they knock on your door. The maid's heart pounded. Was that true? Had the entire empire already been under investigation? The heir looked pleased with himself. I was building an exit. What kind of exit? The boss asked. One where I don't go down with you. The maid suddenly realized something. The heir hadn't just been kidnapping people. He had been preparing to betray his own family. The boss seemed to reach the same conclusion. You plan to run? Of course. With the money. With the money, the heir confirmed. The boss looked down at the folder again, then back at his son. You're not running anywhere. The heir raised an eyebrow. Oh. The boss pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen once. Moments later, footsteps thundered through the hallway. 3 armed security men appeared behind the boss. They surrounded the heir instantly. The heir glanced around calmly. You're serious? Yes. The heir sighed. You always did underestimate me. The maid watched carefully. Something about his confidence still felt wrong. The boss nodded to the guards. Take him. But as the guards stepped forward, the lights in the hallway suddenly went out. Everything went black. The maid gasped. Someone shouted. Then a loud crash echoed through the corridor. When the lights flickered back on, the heir was gone. The guards looked stunned. What happened? The boss's voice turned deadly. Find him. The maid's heart pounded again. The nightmare wasn't over. Across the city, police officers were still securing the garage. Marcus sat on the floor, breathing heavily as an officer checked his injuries. Min Jae stood nearby, speaking with another officer. Yes, he said calmly. The operation connects directly to the heir. Do you have proof? Min Jae nodded. In the mansion. The officer wrote something down. We'll need a warrant. Min Jae shook his head. You won't have time. Why not? Because at that exact moment, the heir was already racing through the mansion's underground parking garage. His face was no longer calm. It was furious. He slammed into his car and started the engine. His phone buzzed. A message from one of his men. The pickup failed. Police arrived. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. Min-jae. He slammed the accelerator. Tires screamed as the car shot out of the garage. Back in the mansion hallway, the boss stared at the empty corridor. He knew the escape routes, one guard said nervously. The boss's voice was quiet. Yes. The maid stepped forward slowly. What happens now? The boss looked at her. For the first time, his expression softened slightly. Your son is safe. Tears filled her eyes again. Thank you. But the boss shook his head. Don't thank me. His eyes hardened again. Thank him. He nodded toward the door, where Min-jae would soon return. Moments later the mansion doors opened. Min-jae stepped inside. His clothes were slightly torn, but he looked calm. The maid rushed toward him. Marcus. He's safe, Min-jae said. Her legs nearly gave out with relief. She grabbed his arm. Thank you. He nodded slightly. Then he noticed the tension in the hallway. What happened? The boss answered. My son ran. Min-jae's expression darkened. That's not good. No, the boss agreed. It isn't. But something in Min-jae's eyes shifted. What? The boss asked. Min-jae slowly pulled out his phone. He can run from the mansion. The boss frowned. But not from this. He turned the screen toward him. On it was a GPS tracker, moving rapidly across the city. The boss's eyes widened. You tracked him. Min-jae nodded. I knew he would try to escape. The maid stared at him in amazement. You planned this. Min-jae didn't smile. I hoped. The boss closed the folder slowly. Then let's finish this. Outside the mansion, police sirens suddenly filled the night. Cars screeched to a halt at the front gates. Dozens of officers rushed forward. The maid's heart jumped again. But this time the boss didn't look surprised. In fact, he looked ready, because the final move in the game had just begun. And somewhere on the highway, the heir had no idea that every road in the city was about to close around him. If you enjoyed this story and want more intense stories like this, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment what you would have done if you were in the maid's position. Your support helps more stories like this reach people who love suspense and powerful storytelling. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous secrets are hiding in the rooms we clean every day.